is making a comeback.
The face of democratic socialism, Bernie Sanders, is hanging on by a thread after multiple primary contests have all but anointed former Vice President Joe Biden the Democratic nominee. So, what happens now to Sanders and the Squad, a group of Dems in Congress who embrace the socialist message? Does this signal the end of democratic socialism, at least for the time being? We turn our attention to those who live in the all-important red states. Yes, those places in America that those on the left like to think don't exist. Liberty Nation's Heartland correspondent Sarah Cowgill joins me for some political girl talk as we begin our discussion, asking the question, where have all the girls gone?
How goes it, Sarah?
It goes very well, Lisa. How are you?
Good. Well, I always love talking to you, and I think our viewers like it too, because this is getting pretty popular. Political girl talk, but we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders and political Armageddon. But first, where have all the women gone? I mean, things sure are shaping up with a little bit of two old white guys and a pony. What do you make of this?
I don't. I scratch my head a lot, but it's the Democratic Party, and I don't know what they're intent. They're just trying to beat Trump, so they figure one old white guy is going to beat the other old white guy. What I don't understand is all the women that have dropped out of the race didn't rally behind, Senator Warren. Why not? I mean, they're all going to lose anyway, it seems, if they keep this stuff up. But why wouldn't they rally around a woman?
I have to say I'm a little perplexed about how the Democrats are treating Tulsi Gabbard. It's like she's an apparition. She's not even there. Yeah, I saw her last night. I think it was on Tucker or Hannity or something like that. And she really gave a good accounting to herself. She comports herself well. What is the problem? What's the problem that Democrats have with Tulsi?
Tulsi is more of a Bill Clinton style of Democrat, kind of a centrist, and they just can't allow that type of person to up in their party. And she's young, and she's a woman, and that's not what's going to sell against President Trump. In their minds, in my minds, I think she'd be formidable because, if he goes after her and treats her as poorly as he treated Hillary Clinton in 2016, there's going to be a backlash. And I just don't get it. I don't understand why they haven't rallied around the women leaving the race, haven't rallied around the other women.
Well, as I want to do, I'm going to go off script. Do you think Biden might pick Tulsi for running mate?
I'm not sure Biden's in charge of any of his faculties, so I would say probably not. They would probably want somebody with a little more experience, because if he actually does win in 2020 here in a few months, then I can't imagine him lasting a year in office without having to step down. So that number 2 position is pretty important.
Okay, now for Bernie and the Squad, do you see solid support in the heartland for the socialist message?
I don't see any support in the heartland for the socialist message, just to be clear. It does not exist here. People would...
Let me be clear.
Just to be clear. It doesn't exist here. Or maybe 1 or 2 people in the cities. But no, they would prefer a more centrist style Democrat. They certainly don't like Biden, but they do kind of like Tulsi, which is kind of amazing. So, there's a little bit of interesting stuff going on when it comes to the old white guys and the young women of color. I don't think Kamala Harris would have performed well in the heartland yet, but she's saving herself for 2024 as far as I can see.
Well, it's interesting because now the Democrats have once and for all attached themselves to the socialists. I mean, whether, there is Bernie or no Bernie this time around, now the Democratic Party is the party of the socialists. I mean, there's no getting around that.
No, it's done. It's forever labeled, stamped on their head like a nice scarlet letter S for socialist. So there's no turning back at this point. The elite guard either needs to step up and just wipe out all these usurpers and try to maintain some semblance of American in their party, or they need to steer into the skid and hope for the best.
Well, it's interesting because the Democratic National Party has certainly, pushed and, done everything they could in their power to get Biden ahead and to really squash the socialists. But, out of the frying pan into the fire, what have the Dems gotten themselves into with Joe Biden?
Well, in my political opinion, which, take with a grain of salt, I think they've sat back, they've decided they can't win 2020, so they're going to put up a patsy. They're going to pull out all of the people that could be viable in 2024, save their reputations, don't go down with a sinking ship, and just throw Biden at it.
Do you think he has the stamina cognitively to, make it through to the election, let alone if he was to be elected president?
I doubt he can get through the next debate. Bernie has his senses together, even though he's a socialist. So I'm not going to give him any credit there, but he's got his faculties. Biden doesn't seem to be able to string a sentence together, without a gaffe. He's attacking a constituent in Michigan who's talking about gun rights, and he calls an AR-14, and he tells the guy that he wants to slap him, and he cusses at him. I mean, it's like, how's this working for you? Is this really where you want to go with this? And I really, really think that this is a complete disservice to a man who served, in Congress for many years and served as a vice president of the United States. I think it's horrible what the DNC is doing to him.
Yeah, it's almost pitiful. And I have friends who have parents who are in the early stages of dementia, and anger seems to be one of the kind of side issues. I mean, I'm no doctor, but he does seem to display quite a bit of anger at some of these voters. Anyway, we're unrolling a new portion of our program called Bravos and Boos. Do you have any bravos or boos or both for the week?
Oh, I have both, Lisa. I have a bravo to the liberal, crazy state of New York, who actually imposed a 23-year prison sentence on Harvey Weinstein. Thank God he didn't get away with it. So bravo to the state of New York, the judge in the case, the jury, and the people who fought hard to make sure he was going to pay for his past casting couch transgressions. I'm all good with that. And my biggest boo this week is watching Joe Biden and not having somebody step in and save his reputation, and that would be the Democratic Party. And if they're that big of fall on your sword and we'll sacrifice this guy for our cause, I can't understand how anybody would want to be a part of that party. That's my boo.
Well, Sarah, my bravos to the Democratic National Party, who managed to get the socialists out of the race. But that leads to my boo, which is now they're stuck with Joe Biden. So I guess we'll see where that leads. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Lisa K. Donner, Editor-in-Chief of Liberty Nation. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember to surf on over to ln.com, where truth is making a comeback.
Truth is making a comeback.